I join all of my colleagues in telling you, I think you already know, that the evidence is absolutely compelling now that we are, in fact, altering the climate. The evidence was in many decades ago that we are altering the composition of the atmosphere by adding certain greenhouse gases and other pollutants to it. But the fact that we're altering climate is a relatively recent development. Now, there are those who say that we're being collectively arrogant by assuming that we can change the climate. But the fact is we're by no means the first species to have done this. The very primitive atmosphere of our planet almost 4 billion years ago was made of gases that we would consider today to be largely toxic. The early life forms developed and thrived on those gases and produced as a byproduct of their life a gas which was very toxic to them, oxygen. And after a while, they ensured their own extinction by completely altering both the composition of the atmosphere and the climate. So the idea that life can alter climate is nothing new. We're just the most recent species to have done that. Now, we have known since at least the end of the 19th century that the combustion of fossil fuels will increase the content of certain key greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, like CO2. The Swedish scientist Sven Arrhenius in the 1890s was among the first to sound the alarm about this. And since then, scientific progress was quite slow until the end of the 1970s, when the National Academy produced a report warning that we would increase greenhouse gases further at our peril. The evidence today, 2009, from a variety of completely independent measurement systems is, as I said before, compelling that the climate is changing and that we're responsible for that. I don't have time to go into the details about that. The temperature of the planet is rising faster than it ever has in probably the last 3 million years. Sea level is going up, and people perhaps don't appreciate what this really means. If we turn the clock back 20,000 years, right here where we're sitting in Boston, sea level was almost 400 feet lower than today at the height of the last glacial maximum. Sea level can change quite a bit. 20,000 years, of course, is the blink of an eye in geological history. The projections that are made by such organizations as the IPCC are that the sea level will increase by anywhere up to half a foot or so, but all of the people involved in that process would suggest that that's conservative if we compare projections of sea level rise made 15 years ago to what's actually happened in the interim. Indeed, those estimates have proved to be conservative. If Greenland melts, if the ice in Greenland melts, and we don't understand that problem, if it were, that would be a 7-meter, almost 25-foot increase in sea level, and you don't have to have a lot of imagination to see what that would do. Arctic sea ice has been retreating, reaching an all-time summer low in the year 2007, almost as low in the last 2 years. Carbon dioxide not only changes the climate, but gets dissolved in the ocean where it increases its acidity, and this is proving fatal for a variety of marine organisms. It's a great worry among people who worry about the outcomes of climate change. My own specialty, as Jessica mentioned, is hurricanes. We now have really strong evidence that the power of hurricanes, particularly in the Atlantic, has been increasing very much in concert with the ocean temperature. You only have to think back to Katrina to understand what this means for us. Now, what does this all mean for Massachusetts? Let me first say that I'm very proud to be a resident of Massachusetts for the last 29 years. And Massachusetts academic institutions like MIT and Harvard, BU, and so forth, I'm very pleased to say are at the lead in research for understanding not only global climate change, but also in developing alternative ways of producing energy that are not so much a threat, or not a threat at all to the climate system. So there's a big energy initiative at MIT. We're developing new ways of storing and producing energy. Massachusetts, in this particular sense, is setting a golden example for research in energy, I think. It would be very nice to see the state of Massachusetts now start to set an example in the way it itself produces energy. And know, our energy production is heavily weighted toward fossil fuels. And it's said quite correctly that what we do in the United States from now on may be not so material, because after all, the production of greenhouse gases by China and by India has exceeded recently that by the West, and will continue to go up relative to the West. But it's very hard for us to convince those nations to do anything unless we set an example. So I am here because I sincerely hope that Massachusetts in the future can set the golden example in its actual production of energy that it is currently setting in energy research. We have an enormous potential reserve of power in offshore winds. Every survey that's been done about potential wind power shows that the offshore waters in New England are a great place to produce wind power, and we need to try to exploit that. I will mention something controversial, but I feel strongly about. We need to think more about nuclear energy. The country of France produces more than 80% of its electricity that way. It's clean. Yes, there are problems with waste disposal. Those are not insurmountable problems. We need to work on that. But we cannot rely on one golden bullet in our energy production if we're going to tackle this problem. That's a near unanimous consensus of people who work in the energy sector. Finally, let me end on a note which perhaps will serve to introduce to some extent the next speaker, is that I myself happen to have, I don't mind admitting, a bit of a religious bent, and I've always believed that we human beings are, to take something of a metaphor, shepherds. And we treat the earth with respect, whether it's our own garden or our flock of sheep. Why shouldn't we do so